Coach Gaffney here. I am in Midland ISD and had the opportunity to run into a group of gentlemen and ladies that serve the Midland ISD area. So I'm Coach Mental Health, and I have with me
Sergeant Gomez.
Okay, Sergeant Gomez and I were just having a little conversation, and I did a session about emotional intelligence. And you said you had a different viewpoint. What is your viewpoint as it relates to when you hear emotional intelligence and what that is about?
Like people were saying, there's there's IQ, EQ, and IQ. And emotional intelligence, you have to have that, like people said, to sustain a job, to build relationships. But also, I think it begins with what you get taught at home, what your values, what your principles are, how to overcome struggle depending on what you're dealing at the time. How do your parents deal with it? How do kids, I have kids myself, what do they see me do? And how do I act when I have a situation that I need to take control over or overcome? Do I just go off and blow up, or can I talk about it? Their upbringings, I think God in the household is really important. There's some people that don't have that and don't experience that, and their God might be something else like alcohol or drugs. That has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is talking about the environment.
Your environment.
The environment and those experiences that you have. So let's just kind of get to some real conversation just for a couple of minutes. You are a law enforcement officer.
Yes, sir. For the past 13 years.
13 years. Thank you. Now, let me give a perspective, because where I come from, this shouldn't be happening.
Understood.
Because you are them and I am me.
Yes, sir.
So what would you say to people to humanize the position that you serve in?
So make them understand that we're there to help people in any situation they come across that they need help with. If we don't know the answer, we will try to guide you the right way. Yes, we're there to enforce the law, but we're also human. If you broke the law, you have to understand that it's our job to enforce it, because what would the world be without law enforcement? Now, like I said, it starts at the home. When we walk to the store or we're walking somewhere, the first thing that parents say, be good or be careful or act right. If not, I'm going to call the police. That automatically starts setting people or kids that we're the bad guys because they didn't act right, instead of the parent not taking that responsibility and guiding them properly.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So
I get it.
And they, I come across that. I always tell them, if you call me I'm gonna take them and go have ice cream and have a conversation. We're not going to jail or anything.
Yeah.
Like that, you know?
Yeah, don't treat you like you're the boogeyman.
Exactly.
And I feel that, because there are times where I was in school and when you have to go. Okay. There are times where I was in school, and as the black male at an elementary campus, it was like, all right, you better do right, otherwise I'm gonna get coached. And I'm like, I don't have any vendetta against that kid. I don't wish that kid any harm. Why are you telling them that by getting in trouble, they're gonna have to come see me?
Instead of, whenever you have a situation, you can come see me and we can work it out. It's not always I'm the bad guy. You can come to me with any situation and we can see what we can figure out.
Let me ask one more real pointed conversation for me. This is me. I have a 10-year-old son.
Yes, sir.
And I live in America with the skin that I have.
Yes, sir.
There are individuals in times where I've run across situations where you said you are here to help, officers are there to serve and things of that sort, but it didn't feel that way.
So
how would you encourage someone to navigate a situation where they don't feel like someone who's associated with law enforcement is there to help?
It depends on the situation. But let's say, for instance, it's just when we show up, we for the most part demand actions. We tell you what to do. If people just follow along our instructions and what we tell them to do, there won't be anything else of it. If we're in the wrong and we told you wrongfully that you did something wrong, you did something because we told you and we were in the wrong, there is a time and a place for it to be resolved. Maybe on scene or wherever the situation is taken care of is not the time, But if we did something wrong, we will get reprimanded and we will face those consequences. At the moment, it just escalates because you're pulling one way, trying to say, no, I'm not in the wrong, and I'm pulling the other way. Ultimately, for the most part, I think we're there, we show force. Once the situation's under control, maybe we can speak about it, but it's not the time to argue about it.
Okay, so that's the first thing. Last thing I'm gonna say, how do you personally, thinking of all the things that you have to deal with and see, which I empathize with the job that you do because you see and experience a lot. That's one thing that I think people don't understand the other side of, is that you walk up on a car, you walk into a situation, it is literally and can be life and death in the moment every time you walk up.
Yes, sir.
How do you take care of your mental health as you do your job?
This is where I told you that I'm in the old school mentality to where I don't let it faze me. It's a job. If a situation happens, whether I'm there or not, it's going to happen. I might not be the one responding to it, but something's going to happen. And I don't let it mess with my mind and eat me up because of it. Because I still have I have a family to go to. I don't let it mess with me. There's other officers that it's a new generation and maybe little things are real persistent in their mind. As to me, I was raised by an older gentleman in the 40s with my dad, who was born 1944, where you strong Hispanic character, men don't cry, and you just put a face on, and so I don't let it affect me. Now there's other officers that like these programs. I think they're really good because you do have to express yourself and don't bottle it up either.
So you do encourage that.
I do.
That for that to happen, for you to talk, and if like let's say for example, I have a friend, shout out OW, who also is a law enforcement, and he had told me a story about seeing a student killed, and as a person, I can't imagine, man, the kind of psychology that works on. So. For those officers, are you saying that it's good for them to get help and talk and things of the sort?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Because I also think it's like when you put a dry ice into a bottle and it creates that pressure. And if you keep bottling it with if your relationship, your word, you just eventually it's gonna blow.
Yeah.
And it's good to talk about it.
Yeah.
And maybe people that are not in our profession won't understand what we see. We joke a lot about what we see, and maybe at times it's not funny. The situation's not funny, but that's how we cope with it amongst our peers. Yeah. Just by laughing about what we just went through. Yeah. And maybe that's how I cope with it. Yeah. But it is if you're not comfortable around your peers to talk about it, and there's these outreach programs, it's good to go and reach some counseling.
Thank you for being human. Thank you for taking the time to give that perspective. I think this is more needed than you can imagine. I can think of 1,000 situations where if people saw law enforcement as human, thinking from that perspective first, it would defuse some of the situations that are happening in our world. I appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.